I don't know if it is also okay to ask if if San Jose State is the only university they applied to, or where else they applied.
Yeah.
That sort of.
Jesse, are we streaming right now?
So the YouTube live will just be streaming, but then no one's watching right now. I'm just setting it up, and then once we broadcast, then the link will be sent out.
Got it. Okay. Cool. That sounds good.
Yeah.
So we have 5 more minutes.
5 more what?
5 more minutes before we go live.
Oh, okay. So on a separate note, Matt, your letter looks very good. I think it's a previous one anyways.
Yeah,
I did make a few comments.
Yeah, I just looked through it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Some of that information is in the equipment list and facilities and institution support stuff I have to supply with this. Okay. But it'd be a good idea, I think, just to mention it.
Yeah, and then a little bit about clarifying how we do our assigned time.
Yeah, I'm trying to make that bold, and that's why I added in the 50% thing, and pretty much it's the 40 plus 40 plus the summertime adds up to more than 50.
Yeah. No, it looks good.
Thank you. It's coming along. It's a little bit every day.
You know how to eat an elephant, right? No?
No.
Never tried it? Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I would we say one mouthful at a time. So it's the same with these proposals, you got to plug away at it one mouthful at a time, and you'd be surprised you'll have it done and done it well.
Yeah, hopefully that's the plan. All right.
Here we go.
And Jesse, will the slides be shared the whole time, or will it bounce to our faces when we do the Q&A?
Yeah, so it's going to bounce to your faces.
Okay, just making sure.
So how are you doing, Jesse? Weathering the storm?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm doing okay.
That's
trying
good.
to stay quietly inside my house.
Yeah.
Something I'm not used to,
Uh-huh.
So this is a learning experience for me.
Oh yeah, same here. I think learning online is slightly more difficult than learning in person.
Yeah, learning online and teaching online as well.
Yeah.
I'm not teaching any classes, but Dr. Lineweber is, and I think at least the biomedical engineering faculty have done a remarkable job in switching at such short notice.
It's been interesting. It's a lot of extra work, but I think in the long run, it's good.
This is online classes is something we've been talking about for a long time without anybody making a real effort to go down that pathway. But I think this is now being thrust upon us, right?
Yeah. I learned a lot yesterday during the Zoom the seminar, just as far as for the next time, how to make sure everybody register ahead of time and you get an attendance list and all this other stuff. So moving forward, I think it'll go by.
Yeah.
Pat and I were throwing out the ideas. We can probably start trying to bring in people that would have been impossible otherwise. If we keep this virtual thing up, we can bring in people from the East Coast or around the world that I think would give good talks.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I was thinking of that too. And from a logistics perspective, we don't have to go around hunting for a room.
Yeah, it's much nicer.
This is great, I think Molly and Sandy will be happy to hear that.
Yeah, we're gonna slowly work ourselves out of jobs.
I'm ready for that. You not yet.
I got a few more years. Yeah, I got to put in my dues.
Yeah. While we are waiting for things to come in. I asked if you were interested in trying to do one more, or let's just plan for four.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to talk to Pat. I didn't have anybody in mind, but if we came up with a good speaker.
Okay, so maybe the first week of May.
Yeah. It's coming up, so we'd have to brainstorm someone pretty quick.
Someday really soon. Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we're gonna start broadcasting right now. I'm gonna broadcast, and then we're gonna go ahead and just let it sit for a bit as attendees start coming in.
Okay.
All
okay.
right. I'll start broadcasting
So
right
no
now.
more chatter on our part, huh?
Okay, so there are people coming in now. Okay, so just to be sure, you guys can see my screen, right?
Sorry?
You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Jesse Pham, and welcome to the Biomedical Engineering Q&A session. So there won't be any presentation now, or in this session, but we have Professor Salvadore and Professor Leinweber who will be speaking to you during the session. We will start with some brief housekeeping items, followed by the questions and answers session. When you have a question, please use the Q&A button along the bottom to submit questions, and we will try to answer them in the order they were posted. There's also a chat room for you to make comments or chat with your peers. As a reminder, please always use appropriate language while chatting or commenting. This Q&A session is designed to help both students and parents learn more about our program. This session will last about 45 minutes, and then we will encourage you to explore other sessions. So without further delay, I would like to turn it over to our panelists.
Hi, everyone. I think it just became afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Q&A session with the Biomedical Engineering Department faculty. There are two of us here today who will field your questions and do our best to give you the best possible answers. As Jesse mentioned, my name is Guna Salvadore. I happen to be the department chair, which is why I have a gray beard. And my colleague here is, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Leinweber. I'm an assistant professor here in biomedical engineering. Been around a few years, not quite as long as Dr. Salvadore, and so my beard is not nearly as long or gray. But hopefully I'll have some good information for you, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions you guys have and providing you any information you'd like prior to joining here.
So please do fire away.
So it looks like we have a question. So it says, do you have an undergraduate specialization track in biomolecular engineering?
Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
So yeah, currently our undergraduate program we don't have tracks for specializations. So all of our undergraduates are taking the same basic curriculum for the first 3 years. And then in their senior year, or their sometimes if they're ahead a little bit in their late junior year, they're able to specialize into what we call technical electives. And from there, they can start taking more specialized courses. So while we don't have tracks, there is an opportunity for students to go into some areas that are more of interest to them. And as far as biomolecular goes, we do offer courses at an undergraduate level. They'll take organic chemistry, which is going to get an introduction to some of that molecular level chemistry, as well as they'll take biomaterials courses of both metals and ceramics and engineering materials, as well as engineering polymers. And those polymers courses are going to talk about not just plastic, but as well as they're going to see how tissues at the human level interact together. We also offer courses at the graduate level, which some students can take as these electives, which would be at nanoscale and microscale mechanics, which is getting down to that molecular level almost, as well as in tissue engineering.
If I may add to Dr. Lineweber, at the undergraduate level, when students have an interest in a particular direction, we encourage them to think of the combination of the technical electives and their senior project. And for the technical electives, with advisor approval, you will be able to take upper division classes outside the department. And so in this particular case, since we are talking of biomolecular engineering, there is also the possibility of taking relevant classes in the biology department, if the biology department will let you in. And generally, we are willing to intervene and discuss it with the bio department and make that possible.
Okay, and so for our next question by Jeneth, is the BME program focused more on the chemistry and clinical aspect or more on the device and mechanical aspect?
Yeah, I'll tackle it again. Again, it's a great question. And really because, as I'm sure you're starting to realize, as you look at biomedical or bioengineering programs in different schools, both in California and around the country, is they're all very different. And it's partly because biomedical engineering and bioengineering are relatively new as fields. So at San Jose State, our focus is primarily on biomedical devices. And that's how we carve out what we think we can make our biggest contribution to the field and to preparing students to go work at medical device companies in the Bay Area and then around once they finish up here. So yes, they'll take a lot of undergraduate courses in general chemistry and organic chemistry, as well as I mentioned before, the biomaterials courses. And the chemistry always comes into play, but we always try to emphasize that link between the chemistry and the mechanics. So they'll also take courses in biomechanics, as well as other biotransport phenomenon and other information that they need for specifically designing medical devices. We also have a big emphasis on working in a FDA or Food Drug Administration regulated environment, because that's the government organization that says what medical devices will or will not be able to be used. So we put a big emphasis on how do you make sure when you're designing a device or a product that you're working within their framework, doing all the testing required and understanding what the process is to take a device from a research idea into something that's actually implemented in the medical community.
So I think we are one of the very few departments, biomedical engineering departments across the country, that actually provides students with background and knowledge on the FDA requirements in order to take a product from conception to the market.
Okay, and so we have another question from Jade. What is the student to faculty ratio for your department?
Maybe do you have the exact numbers for this?
No, I don't have the exact number. Right now, we have probably on the order of about 360 or 70 undergraduate students and about 110 or so graduate students. We have 6 full-time faculty right now. In fall, we will be having 7. And in addition to that, we have a number of lecturers from industry who come and teach for us as well. The actual number of students in the classes does tend to vary. I think on the smaller side, the classes are typically about 25 to 30 students. And on the high side, we are looking at maybe about 70 students. It depends upon the class, but most required classes, Matt, I would say are probably on the order of like 40 to 50.
Yeah, I think most, especially the ones that are offered every semester, are ranged between 20 to 40, and then courses that are offered less frequently are 50-ish on average.
We have been working constantly to reduce the number of students in the class so that we can pay each student better attention. One of the things that's holding us back is the California budget.
Okay, and then
universities are something like a company as well. They're all budget driven. I won't say profit driven, but budget driven. And without the budget allocated to hire the necessary staff to do the teaching, it's difficult to maintain the kind of numbers that we would like to. But it's something that we've been working on constantly and will continue working on.
Okay, so are there research opportunities with professors, and how hard is it to get a position as an undergrad?
So I think first and foremost, I'll say yes, there are definitely research opportunities, and that I know myself and all of my colleagues are very enthusiastic and love it when we can get undergraduates involved in our research. It's something that we always want. It's something that not all of the undergraduates know about right away, and so they come in later on, and so we always try to advertise it a little bit more. But it's definitely a possibility, and it's something that we actively encourage. There's a lot of mechanisms that we try to apply for and let our students know about to bring them into our labs or as early as possible. Um, Part of the hard part is a lot of the first 2 years is that our students are in the program as biomedical engineering faculty. We don't see them as much because that's when they're taking all their math and physics courses, and so we just don't interact with them as much as we like. But we're finding ways to make that those interactions a little bit more involved. For example, we have in their second year in the beginning, they take what's called our BME 25 course, which is where all of the faculty come through and rotate through that course and give presentations on their research and what kind of activities that they do and what opportunities they have for student involvement. So again, we're always trying to advertise and bring them in. So as long as a student is willing and interested in research, all they have to do is email us or come to our office hours and chat, and we'd love to talk with them and see what their interests are and what we're looking for.
And the universe, go ahead, Matt.
I think I had the only other addition to that is during their senior year, especially when they do their senior projects, they're definitely working with us, and we're trying to get we try to take our research opportunities and convert them into project ideas for courses as well. But there's other avenues. So
yeah, the university definitely encourages student research and has several programs which a number of our students have applied for very successfully. And it's a good mechanism of training the students how to pitch ideas to others as well. Typically, the grants are probably somewhere on the order of, I'm going to say about $3,000 to $4,000, primarily to cover the supplies and minor equipment that is needed for the research if we do not have it. At this point, we have practically all of the equipment we would need for most of the kind of research that we do. What we need, of course, is supplies because those are consumed. The university, again, is very supportive of this and is working with all the departments to increase the research participation, especially by undergrads.
All right. So, how frequently and what year do students work in association with the biomedical engineering companies in the area?
It's I mean, it really varies. I'd say student to student, and what opportunities they've taken advantage of, or what connections they have. We bring in, as Dr. Salvadori mentioned, many of our lecturers are working in industry, and they have connections, and students that are doing well in those classes and interacting with them often can be put in connection with other professionals in the area, as well as we host a large conference every year that's entirely run by our students, and is a great networking opportunity for students to get involved with them. At the very least, there again, as I mentioned before, their senior design project is a great opportunity for students to get involved with companies. We have a standing relationship with Jabil, which is a manufacturing company in the area that sponsors, I think 12 projects every year, 10 projects every year. And so they're working directly with them, as well as we have other interactions with companies where they'll bring projects to us or are looking for students to be involved with them. And otherwise, I think it really is up to the students. We'll try to make those opportunities available for them, but then that last push becomes on them.
I get several emails from companies looking for students as interns. And generally what I do is I get the people in the companies to write up a 1-paragraph job description and whom to contact or to apply to. I send this out to all the students because we want the students to have the initiative. We bring the opportunity to them, but we are not going to hold their hands and take them over to the company. We don't have the bandwidth for that, much as we'd like to. The students are encouraged to apply directly. And practically all our students are getting internships. It is my opinion that in the Valley, the companies know that if they want to have good biomedical engineering interns, San Jose State is the place to go based on the number of emails I get.
All right. And for our next question, they're asking how many students graduate within 4 years? And if you guys know, what is the average amount of time it takes to complete a bachelor's in BME?
You want me to take that, Matt?
If you have the numbers, and then otherwise I'll chime in.
Okay, go ahead. You take a shot.
Well, I would just say, again, I don't know our exact 4-year graduation rate. It really, our program is designed to be completed in 4 years as if you're a full-time student. And that's the big caveat, that if you're taking your 15 units every semester on average, you can get out in 4 years. But in reality, many of our students are working at least part-time, if not full-time, as they're going to school, which just delays the progress. So the numbers being lower aren't because of the necessarily demands of the program, but it's just the realities of life and the demands that our students have to deal with. And so we try to find as many opportunities as we can to help them out and make sure they're moving along and provide opportunities for research and academic work where they don't necessarily have to work outside as much. But that really is just, as Dr. Silver already said, it's budget dependent and life dependent.
All right. So what courses make up the undergrad program for BME students?
Well, I can really quick share a link to that. I hope that link went out. That is our 4-year plan. If you're interested in looking at what courses they're taking, really quick as a brief overview, in the first 2 years, they're taking their introduction courses. So there's some intro to engineering courses, as well as things like your Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, physics, General Chemistry 1, General Chemistry 2, Introduction to Biology, your communications courses, some of your SJSU general education courses. And that's just to get you prepared to come into biomedical engineering. And once you get into us, you'll be taking courses, both intro to biomedical engineering, things, transport, phenomenon theory, materials, understanding engineering materials such as metals and ceramics and plastics, as well as how do human tissues work. We also take courses in some of more math, differential equations, numerical methods, and statistics are all very important, as well as circuits are all kind of the required, most of our required core, plus at least 2 courses related to the FDA and the regulatory and how to work in that environment.
Okay, I think this is a good question here. What kind of jobs are available for the BME major currently?
A variety of jobs. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, that's a great timing. We just hosted a session yesterday for all of our students, a Zoom session where we had a industry representative come in and he talked about all those different job opportunities available for engineers. And this is definitely a question that we get from our students a lot. And it's because I think biomedical engineering is such a new field. It's not as well defined. And so because of that, there's a lot of different opportunities. And I think, Guna, why don't you continue?
Well, you can go into a variety. I think the typical engineers look at manufacturing and research and development, and those job opportunities are there as well. But one of the areas where I think a lot of our students are going into, and very successfully, is what is called quality engineering. There are a lot of jobs in quality engineering. The other area that, and we are developing a track in quality engineering. In fact, we will be offering a new class in biomedical engineering quality systems in the fall of this year for the first time. There are also lots of job opportunities in what is called the regulatory affairs. We have a class on biomedical regulatory requirements as well to help prepare students for this. And this focuses on safety and efficacy of the devices that are being marketed. You would not want an unsafe or an ineffective device to be implanted in your body, and neither does the FDA. in addition to that, and especially one of the topics that came up in the seminar yesterday that Dr. Leinweber referred to, is that there are a lot of opportunities in the marketing area. I think way too many for me to get into here. But things like applications engineer. So don't just look for a job description that says biomedical engineering. If it is an applications engineer in a biomedical company, you're probably a good fit for that if all the other things work out. Anything you'd like to add, Matt?
Yeah, the last thing I would add is I think people, a caveat to that question, or a thing that comes up a lot with it, is what makes a biomedical engineer special or unique. And really, I think the role that they play more than anything is the ability to straddle that line between engineering and medicine and the clinical practice, where they have one foot in either door, and we're able to communicate with surgeons and communicate with the clinical professionals, as well as being able to work with and chat with engineers and scientists on the technical side, and be able to do both of those. And in addition, I think the unique part that our students have is really understanding that regulatory role and how the FDA comes into play and how those rules govern all of those other aspects. They're going to govern what the doctors can do, as well as they're going to govern what the engineers and scientists can do. And so being able to straddle that line and add to that makes our students, I think, really good for that type of role.
Yeah, a mechanical or an electrical engineer will not be able to straddle that line.
Okay, thank you. So a question from Ivan. Is there any study abroad opportunities for the biomed program?
It is not specific to the biomed program. The university has a study abroad office, in fact, and the university definitely encourages students to do that. And we have had students go to other universities. I think recently, 2 of our students went to the Institute of Technology in Queensland. I think it's called Queensland Institute of Technology or something like that in Australia. And we work with them so that when they are doing their study abroad, that they will be taking classes that can be transferred over here into their degree program with us.
So is getting recruited for an undergraduate research team a very selective process?
I don't know if selective is the word for it. It really comes down to opportunity, timing, and interests of the students and the faculty. So as I mentioned before, we love to bring in students. If we can give all of our students research opportunities, we would. But it really, some of them, if we have funding, and sometimes we have to be a little more selective, but otherwise, I think we're all willing to find opportunities or find projects for students to work with, and something that would be mutually beneficial for both them and us. So as I said, the timing, some of it depends on where they are in their program and what courses that they've taken, if they have the background that we're looking for that particular project. And sometimes it's just what's available and bandwidth on both their side and our side.
Yeah, if you're taking, 4 classes, working 30 hours a week, and also want to do research, that is something that I personally do not recommend. Because all of us want that research experience to be a positive experience, and an essential component of that experience being positive is that all of us have enough time to put into it. I know in my case, I set up meetings with students regularly, and we meet like at least for half an hour once every 2 weeks. I think people like Dr. Leinweber meet more frequently in a slightly different format. We all have different formats, but we work with our students once we take them on.
Okay, so what are some companies that offer internships to undergrad students?
Oh, there's a large variety. Among the big names are, Abbott, I think, has there are companies that have internship programs, and those tend to be the bigger companies like Abbott and Stryker and so forth. And that you've got to go into their website to apply for internships. But the Valley is full of smaller companies, startups and mid-sized companies. And a lot of times with these companies, it's not an official internship program per se, But when they have a project that they feel would be good for an intern to take on and work over a summer, they contact me. And then I send the information out.
So, would you consider biomedical engineering a good pathway to continuing onto the MBT program?
The MBT is the Masters of Biotechnology program, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think it prepares you very well for that. Although their emphasis is a little bit more on the biology side, and our emphasis is on the engineering side. So going into that program, you'll be taking your engineering knowledge, which a lot of people with a biology preference don't have.
Would it be recommended to take the 4-year curriculum or the 5-year curriculum for BME?
Matt,
Again, I think, as I said before, it really just depends on the student and what your situation is. If you can take the 4-year, obviously, I think that's if you can fit it in, you know your work style, and you have the ability to cram it all in 4 years, or I don't say cram, but to complete in 4 years. Definitely, it's the cheaper option, in that you don't have to pay for that 5th year of tuition. But in reality, like I said, if you're working a large chunk of the time, what we tend to do is I tend to recommend students, I would rather that they take fewer courses, do well in those courses, really understand the material, and take that 5th year, than try to work full time and take a full course load at the same time. I think that's just setting yourself up for failure in the beginning, and potentially adding on that 5th year anyway. So I would encourage you to do what works with your schedule, do what works well for your situation, and then us as faculty are happy to help you figure out that plan in our role as advisors as well.
Yeah. Keep in mind that you are building a foundation that will sustain you for 20, 30 years into the future. And as such, focus on doing well, as Dr. Lineweber said. Build a solid foundation that will enable you to be continuously learning and progressing. So think of, and the biggest reason why I find our students running into problems is really time. Again, the number of students who come in, they want to take 5 classes, and then we start talking. It turns out that they have a family and they're working 30 hours a week to pay the bills. That's not a good scenario to do well. Think of the time and the tuition you pay as an investment in yourself that will pay back several times over as you go into the future.
Would you say SJSU is a good fit for a student looking to work in the stem cell and tissue engineering in the future, even though you focused on medical devices?
Go ahead, Matt.
I think you can tackle it.
Okay. It depends upon, so for example, my first degree was really in mechanical engineering. And I worked as a mechanical engineer for many years before slowly making a transition. If one is interested, I think the learning process comes along very easily. What the biomedical engineering students would take with them if they go into the stem cell field is a good solid knowledge of devices and the engineering aspects that are necessary in every lab and every field.
I think to add on to that is if you're looking to get into that area at an R&D type role, an undergraduate degree in biomedical engineering is not going to be sufficient. You're going to have to go on for at least a master's or higher, depending on the role you want to get into. And so what you get out of an engineering degree is, I think more than anything, an engineering degree, and this is true of mechanical, electrical, computer, is in addition to the technical information, you're going to learn how to think, how to problem solve, how to tackle problems. And then that's going to prepare you for when you go to graduate school and you go to that next level, you have that foundation, as Dr. Salvador said earlier, moving forward. And so I think the biggest benefit of doing that in biomedical is that you have that foundation, as well as that technical information pertaining to both biology and engineering moving forward. And I think it's a great opportunity.
So here's a question from Diana. What coding languages do we work with in the undergrad program?
Currently, our students are working with, we do MATLAB as far as technical, just an introduction to technical computing. And we're introducing courses now in Python as well, based on feedback from our industry advisory council that wanted students to know at least some basic programming language, and then how to structure code and how to read and understand it. So right now it's definitely Python and MATLAB. Our stats course runs through some Minitab as well. And so at least those, and then they'll get experience with other software too. So from the non-coding side, you're going to see things like CalmSolve for fluid mechanics and SolidWorks for computer-aided design, as well as individual research labs will do other types. So my lab does more biomechanics modeling and simulation. So it's a software called OpenSim, where it's a combination of, you can work with that package with MATLAB, Python, even doing XML, just depending on your preference. And it varies lab to lab. And the courses, you'll definitely learn Python, and MATLAB for coding.
So we have several people asking this question, and this question is BME a good option if I want to pursue med school later on?
Yes, definitely. I think there is a misconception out there that I deal with a lot, is that you must come in with a biology degree to be eligible to apply for medical school. And I don't think that's the case. What I've also heard from a lot of my colleagues is they like to have engineers, and in particular biomedical engineers, for the reason that Dr. Leinweber mentioned earlier. Engineers come in with very good problem-solving skills. They know how to get a job done. They know how to fix equipment if the need arises. There are lots of skill sets that the engineers bring in, and a lot of advances in the biomedical or the medical field is really at the intersection of medicine and engineering. So if you want to add to that, Matt.
Yeah, I would just say I've worked, collaborated over my career with a lot of surgeons, doctors, other medical professionals, and some of my favorite ones to work with and some of the most successful had engineering degrees in undergraduate before they went on to med school. So it's definitely definitely good path to take if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, so what kind of practical applications will be offered in the biomedical department?
What practical applications there? Like I have students working with me on improving the biocompatibility of implants. So like one of the materials is actually stainless steel 316L, and that's what I started working on to begin with. And the technology that we developed has actually now become standard in terms of doing electropolishing and passivation of, say, stainless steel stents. All of us, in fact, the emphasis of the research at San Jose State, and particularly in the biomedical engineering department, and this is for part of our mission statement as well, is to engage in what is called translational research, i.e. research that is not pie in the sky in the laboratory, but something we can develop solutions with that can be then used in real life. And I'll let Dr. Leinweber add to it because he's working on something that's very applied.
Yeah, I can get to my stuff that I do because that's what I know the most in a second. But just from coursework, as I mentioned, the students they get experience with data analysis and coding, writing programs for MATLAB and Python, which is something that's always in demand now. They also get laboratory experience working with things like spectroscopy, excuse me, as well as materials testing. So we have breaking materials, understanding how they fail, why they fail. These are all industry standard equipment, as well as taking signals, measurements from human bodies. So things like electromyography to measure muscle activity, or EKG to measure heart rate and heart activity, to doing some EEG, measuring brain activity, and how do you interpret those signals. We do things with surface characterization, so understanding how material interacts with fluids in the surrounding environment. So in our biomaterials courses, as I mentioned, in statistics, you're learning things like design of experiments and analysis of variance for understanding and interpreting data. Once you get that, we do numerical analysis and regression techniques for predicting trends and data that way. And then once you start specializing into your different senior projects or other aspects, you'll do things like finite element analysis for stress and you learn computer aided design is definitely a core. So 3D modeling on a computer. I teach and my students do a lot with 3D printing and prosthetics. So a lot of what goes into the design of those courses, of those types of devices. How do you analyze them? How do you make devices that patients and rehabilitation therapists are going to use? And then as we mentioned earlier, many of our instructors or adjunct faculty are working in industry, and so they're coming in with their practical knowledge of manufacturing methods or working in an FDA regulated environment or one consulting. So lots of other opportunities you learn from them as well.
Okay, so how large are the lower division, upper division classes in BME? Is the major impacted, or is it easy to get the required classes to graduate?
We make it a point of making sure that the students can get into the classes. I think we have not had a single case thus far, regardless of the size of the class, of students' graduation being delayed by a semester or a year, just because they couldn't get into it. Now, they might not have the prerequisites to get into it, which is a different story, but not because of the size.
So what are the prerequisites for the BME courses?
That depends upon which course you're looking at. Go ahead, Matt.
I think
closer to that, yeah.
Yeah, I posted that link earlier of our 4-year requirements, and that gives you a list of course by course what needs to be taken in which order.
So I want to change my major from political science to biomedical engineering. How difficult would that be?
If you're willing to do the work, that's not difficult at all. It also depends upon, especially if you've taken 90 units or less, if you're a freshman, that will be the case. The sooner you decide, the better, because you will still have to go through the math sequence, the chemistry sequence, the physics sequence. And if you're willing to put in that work and make sure that you do it well, we have a number of people. I've had people switch even from radio, TV, film. And there's a bit of extra time involved, but I think the effort is definitely worthwhile.
So does the curriculum for biomedical engineering show and walk students through the process of FDA certification for 510K and or de novo? Also, what minor programs, if any, would be good companion knowledge bases with a biomedical bachelor's?
Okay, so the first part of the question, there are people who spend years on that. The best we can do in one class is give you a flavor for what is expected and help you build a foundation that will enable you to pursue more knowledge in the regulatory affairs area. There's 510K, there is PMA, and at that point, and this is where a BME really comes in. You're not doing the work yourself, you're managing the process. You'll be working with a lot of other professionals. You may be working with statisticians, you may be working with R&D engineers who are developing the product. It's a team. And that's something we emphasize a lot in our department is teamwork. All our senior projects are done in teams. Very seldom do we have students working just by themselves on a project. What was the second part of the question, Jesse?
The second part is what minor programs, if any, would be good companion knowledge bases with the biomedical bachelor's?
That depends upon what your interests are. I believe the biology department has a minor program, and there was discussion about the biomolecular aspects earlier on. That might be a good fit. What we will be happy to discuss that, figure out what your interests are, what your direction for the future is, and help you select a program, a minor program, or help you select appropriate elective courses and the senior project that will help you build capacity in that direction.
Okay, so if our goal is to go straight into the master's in biomedical engineering after completing our undergrad, what do we need to know?
Well, go ahead, Matt.
I said we have a lot of students who make that transition. And, you know, if you know, really it's coming out of biomedical engineering into our master's program is a really seamless process. You're right set up. You don't have to take any additional courses to get caught up on the program and you can jump right into it. And if you know you want to do that, you can potentially, I think we're moving into a program where you can start taking some of those courses even a little bit earlier.
So if we want to know about the research going on in campus, is there a specific place we can find that, or would we need to reach out to you guys?
I would suggest reaching out to us. And you can find all our names and email addresses on our website. And I would suggest that you send us an email, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your interests are. And if we feel that somebody else might be a better fit, we'll be happy to forward that. As department chair, feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to forward that to appropriate faculty.
Okay, and we have another question from Paige. What are some of the most popular topics that BME undergraduate research covers?
Oh, how much time do you have?
Mine are the most popular. That's what no. No, I think all of the faculty have very different areas, and students, depending on their interests, get involved in a lot of different things. We have at the undergrad level, I know there's students working on synthetic vasculature for replacing blood vessels, working as well as doing some nanotechnology type things for diagnostics. As I mentioned, I do a lot of work with 3D printed prosthetics, so prosthetic hands for infants and other areas that way. We have students working on tissue engineered or synthetic engineered heart valves with another faculty. So lots of different areas. In addition to students working with Jabil or other companies and those more industry focused projects.
And like I have students now working on how sterilization of a medical product will actually affect its integrity once it's implanted. And that's a huge, big topic. We are also working on seeing how effective X-ray sterilization can replace gamma ray sterilization because of the issues involved with gamma ray sterilization, especially since cobalt-60 is about the only source, reliable source to get the gamma rays for the sterilization. So there's a wide variety.
Okay, so we only have 2 minutes left. Let's see if we can just answer maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So what is the employment rate for BME students who just graduated?
Most of our students do not wait to graduate and apply for jobs. What we recommend is by the time they're sophomores or juniors to actually start looking for internships. And there are a variety of ways of getting internships. One is what I mentioned earlier, anytime a company contacts me, and a lot do, I send the information out and ask the students to contact them directly. But it's also important to keep in mind that a lot of our students already have internships and become a part of the community, join the Biomedical Engineering Society student chapter we have, get engaged, get to know your peers. And one mechanism I see happening a lot is once you have a good established relationship with your peers, when those who are working in companies are keeping their eyes open for where internship opportunities arise, and they let their friends know. So essentially, they're carrying your resume to the hiring manager and saying, no, this is somebody that I think will fit in very well. Anything you'd like to add to that, Matt?
No, I think that answers that perfectly.
Okay, so just for our last quick question, do you have any advice for incoming students?
I think it really depends on the level, but across the board, I would say get involved early on. We have a great student body in biomedical engineering. I think even though we're relatively large, we have a pretty close knit community. Students are very involved. We've got a club room where they can hang out, work with each other.
Take a nap. Take a nap.
Yeah, and you need that from time to time. But I'd say any level you're at is come in, get involved with the student community, take advantage of the upperclassmen. Is they're there, they want to help you out. They can give you the inside scoop on courses and help you with borrowing textbooks or materials as needed. And as we said earlier, I think take the course load that's appropriate to you in your situation. Is don't try to overload yourself. Is do well. And do work with your advisors and your classmates, talk about what path and what opportunities are going to work for you. And then I think especially for transfer students coming in, is it's a bit of a change going from the community colleges into the four-year universities. You might find the workload is maybe a little bit more is expected of you, and so it's okay to take a step back, maybe take one less class than you think you would otherwise, and focus on doing well in the beginning, get your bearings, get your feet under you. And then moving forward, I think you'll have a lot easier transition.
Yeah, I can't emphasize the importance of focusing on doing well enough. A lot of people come in and they want to do it quickly. Keep in mind that you are investing a lot of time and resources in this effort, and you want to do it in a manner that it will always sustain you. Again, looking down the road 20, 30 years from now. Also, feel free to, if you have, I think we had our last question. If you have further questions that we've not had a chance to respond to, please feel free to email either one of us. Dr. Lineweber's email address is matthew.lineweber@sjsu.edu, and my email address is guna.salvadore@sjsu.edu. And believe me, we do read and respond to emails.
Okay.
They don't go into a black box.
Okay, so that's all the time that we have for this session. Thank you so much, Professor Salvadori and Professor Lineweber, for your time today. Thank you all for your excellent questions. If you have any further questions, please email them to engineering@sjsu.edu. And again, I would like to thank you all for attending. Congratulations on being accepted as a Spartan, and we look forward to seeing you in the fall. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you too, Jesse, and thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You too. Goodbye.
Bye.